Well, as the SDLP members were gathering in Newry, Fine Gael's youth wing was launching a branch at Queen's University in Belfast. One man who can tell us about the two events, because he attended both of them, is the former SDLP leader, Alasdair McDonnell. Welcome to you. Thank you for joining us on the programme. Let me ask you, first of all then, simple enough question, how do you feel about yesterday's result in Newry?
Well, I feel yesterday has to be put in context, because basically I think politics here is in a mess. The devolution in Stormont is a mess, and the DUP has undermined a lot of the understandings and arrangements that we have had there. And the misery of that is compounded by the despair around Brexit. And therefore, in that context, people are looking for new ways. And I welcome any partnership, but I want a partnership with substance.
Well, is this a partnership of substance?
Well, at this stage, it's a memorandum of understanding, and to my mind, there is no detail on it. But I would welcome relationships, and I maintain personal relationships with all parties in Dublin and in London, because I believe that we have to work. We have problems here. The Good Friday Agreement brought us so far, but we still have to finish that work. And I would prefer to see strengthening relationships all across the board.
So you would, if you didn't have a vote yesterday,
no.
But if you had a vote, would you have backed Breeze Rogers' amendment, which was reaching out beyond an exclusive relationship with Fianna Fáil?
I was very glad I didn't have a vote, because it was a very difficult decision. There are benefits, there are positives and negatives in all of that. I think the problem for many of us was that it was very badly handled, and it would be much better if we had have had more information, more than 24 hours out. I mean, people got the information 24 hours beforehand and were not in any great position to reach a judgment. Yes, we can discuss and get a feel from the discussions that have gone on over months, but the detail, the devil's in the detail, and the detail wasn't there. But as I say, the problem I have is that I see the thing, I take a very long view of history, and basically I see the current phase of politics here as coming to an end as we know it, and I see us entering into a whole different phase where basically the Brexit situation is going to lead to the breakup of the UK.
So you don't think Stormont's coming back?
I think Stormont is going to be very difficult to bring back. Do
you think that the Good Friday Agreement is still underpinning the political process here?
I think the Good Friday Agreement is still underpinning the peace and the stability we have. But I think the DUP never signed up to the Good Friday Agreement. And I think they have worked hard, and they have thrown their lot in with UKIP in London. And the behaviour, quite frankly, of Sammy Wilson and Nigel Dodds in that has driven people here to despair.
So you said there you don't think that that the United Kingdom will hold together effectively. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah,
you think there will be a border poll? Do you think
No, I didn't mention a border
poll.
No,
well, I'm asking you.
I don't think there will be a border poll. We don't need a border poll. We don't need any more polarisation.
But if the UK is going to break up, there would have to be a border poll for that to happen.
Not necessarily. The UK is basically, the work of the DUP in London is driving people crazy. I have a lot of friends in the Conservative Party and the Labour Party and the Liberal Party and the Scottish Nationalist Party. And the DUP behaviour is basically driving people to extremes. Politics is about getting the art of the possible. It's about getting people together. And all of this Brexit stuff is driving people apart.
Well, of course, the DP would see things very differently, and you know very well. The message that their representatives give on an occasion like this would be, we're working in the interests of everybody. Because of the unique parliamentary mathematics, we're in a position to influence Theresa May's government, but everybody benefits. That's what they'd say.
Well, they represent 30% of the people in Northern Ireland, and basically they're not representing the other 70% or even tolerating the interests of the other 70%. That's the dilemma. And the only person representing those interests is Sylvia Herman in the House of Commons.
OK, we've gone off-piste slightly, but it was fascinating to allow you to extemporise a little bit about that.
It's basically that, but Mark, that is the issue that people like yourself, with all due respect, need to be taken up. Our situation here has never been more fluid. Our society has never been more polarised. And basically that's, in that context, SDLP discussions with Fianna Fáil and with other parties has to be taken. I maintain relationships with all those parties right across the spectrum.
And that's exactly right. Look, those big issues are issues that we always try to touch on, and that context is terribly important. But I do want to bring this back specifically to the SDLP.
Before you take it back, you've got to recognise the point I'm making is that the DUP enthusiasm for their UKIP agenda is basically destabilising the UK and will drive Scotland out of the UK.
OK. All right. Well, look, that's your perspective. I do want to bring this back to the SDLP specifically, because you now are in this bespoke, unique relationship with Fianna Fáil. Do you think, as Claire Hanna said on The View to me on Thursday night, she believes there is a direction of travel that is heading towards all-out merger, and she is extremely uncomfortable with that and made it very clear on Thursday night she will never be a Fianna Fáil MLA. Do you worry about that direction of travel, or do you think ultimately it's a good idea?
I am somewhere in between, and I'm not trying to be...
Well, you're sitting on the fence.
Well, I'm not sitting on the fence. I've never sat on the fence, never in my life. I have always had a decision, but what I'm saying is I am not going to... I'm looking at this as an opportunity for development, and there are positives in it, there's also negatives. It entirely depends on how much energy and effort that Fianna Fáil is going to invest in the north and helping us to solve our problems here. And if it's just a gesture where they're taking an interest or claiming an interest and not doing much about it, then basically it won't be much good and won't be much benefit.
Look, the reason I think this is really interesting to talk to you about this is because you say you're pulled in two directions. And as a former leader of the SDLP, people will listen very carefully to what you have to say on the issue to get direction and guidance from you. And what I think is fascinating is that yesterday, when the party was voting about this bespoke relationship with Fianna Fáil, and you were there at the beginning of that, as I understand it, although, as I've said, you didn't have a vote, you were also at that Fine Gael meeting in Belfast. I mean, that sounds to me, or looks to me, that you're trying to ride two horses.
No, I'm not riding. I spend a day every 2 or 3 weeks in the Dáil in Dublin. I discuss northern issues. I keep briefing Irish politicians as to the events here. I try to give them a sober and honest reflection on what's going on. Yeah,
but your party now has a specific and particular relationship which is supposed to benefit SDLP voters with Fianna Fáil. You know, you've got to come down one way or the other and either say you've got concerns about that, you're not sure it's wise, or you think Colm Eastwood, your successor as party leader, is doing the right thing and it affords voters in Northern Ireland great choice and great opportunity. Now, which of those is it?
Well, that's the question.
Well, that is the question.
That's the question that we're all asking, because quite simply, I want to know what Fianna Fáil's going to do.
Yeah.
I want to know what substance of Fianna Fáil's going to put in here.
So you've got reservations. I don't want to put words in your mouth. You've got reservations, Alasdair. Be honest.
Let's open this up honestly. Right. We are in an unstable situation here. We have dissidents putting bombs in Derry, and we have dissidents doing shootings in Derry. We have loyalist paramilitaries killing people in Albert Bridge Road. This situation here is volatile, and I don't want to enhance that. I don't want to condone it. I don't want to pour petrol in that.
Right.
But we're in an unstable situation.
But is the SDLP a stronger party today than it was 24 hours ago, now that it has this unique relationship with Fianna Fáil?
That will depend entirely on how much strength Fianna Fáil is going to put into this.
So you can't answer, but you can't say to me, as a former leader of the SDLP, I think this is great news for my party and I'm 100% behind Colm Eastwood. You can't say that.
I think that's the curate's egg that's good in parts, right? And quite simply, the point is this.
Which is not exactly great if you're trying to launch a new politics, is it? Well, good in parts.
Yeah, well, there are bits of it good.
It's hardly a ringing endorsement, Alasdair.
It is the potential. It is the potential to bring strength to the place. That's what I'm saying.
And others who you would be close to, founding members of the SDLP, Claire Hanna, Breeze Rogers we heard from, have got grave reservations. Yes. And you're saying their voices should be heard, are you?
Yes. Yeah. I believed in the SDLP it was a broad church, and I believed that everybody should be in the tent. And that's the point, and that's one of the disadvantages of this situation is...
So everybody's not now in the tent?
Well, I hope they are still in the tent.
Micheál Martin's in the tent, but others are not.
I hope they're still in the tent.
Right.
But I mean, it has to...
not.
But it has to... Well, I don't see anybody... I hope and trust that people still stay in this space that is the SDLP and still discuss things. But I am
okay.
But I still think, Mark.
Well, if people had wanted that yesterday, they would have voted for the amendment. They chose 70% of them who had a vote yesterday chose not to do that and chose to vote for the specific relationship with Fianna Fáil.
Yeah, but
do you regret that?
I think you're putting
do you regret that?
I think you're putting it in a narrow context.
No, I'm asking you a simple question. Do you regret that? Would you have preferred if the Lurgan amendment had been successful?
I am open-minded on that.
No, be honest with me. You think it would have been better if that had won yesterday?
I am telling you quite simply that there's good.
Well, you don't want to answer the question.
There's good and there's bad in it, right? And I'm adopting a wait and see attitude.
All right, okay, we'll leave it there.